subscribe, or leave a comment. Today, I'm going to talk about parenting tips that I would like to share, and just maybe 10 parenting tips that I've used along the way from a parent perspective or from a dad perspective. I think the first tip that I want to share with you guys is the first thing I want to say is be consistent. So children thrive on routine and clear expectations. So consistent rules and consequences help them feel secure and understand their boundaries. So I think it's important as parents is that we are consistent. I always like to use the terminology is inspect what you expect. So my kids, if I had asked them to do something or they had to do a chore or what have you, I would, let them do the chore, whether it was vacuuming, cleaning the bathroom, or cleaning their room. And then once they finished the chore, I would go in and I would inspect it. And then if something was, off kilter or whatever, I would then say, okay, this is how you're supposed to make the bed correctly. So I would, let them do it on their own the first time, but then I would go and say, okay, I expect you to make the bed this way. So this way, when I say, okay, clean your room or make your bed, they knew what the expectation was. Also, another thing is that when I was teaching my kids how to cut the grass as well, is that, I was like a stickler for vertical and horizontal lines on my lawn. So I first showed them how to go vertical and then how to go horizontal. And then, so I showed them that. And then when I would say, well, go out and you guys need to cut the grass, they knew that they had to go vertical and horizontal. And then show them also how to do the weed whacking. So what I think is, so far as like consistency is key, but I think in the same vein, we as parents, we have to inspect what we expect so that our kids, if they are doing something and they think they're doing it the right way, we can show them where they need to change a little bit or correct the behavior to make sure it meets the standard of what making a bed is, what cutting the grass is, or what cleaning your room is. So I think it's important, like I said, is always, as you teach your kids to be consistent with the things, we as parents, we need to inspect what we expect. Hi, if you're new to the channel, thank you for stopping in. I see I got one person there. Hey, Christy. Cheese. But hi, channel's called Dad Talk Network. Love it if you would like, subscribe, leave a comment. I have some great videos talking about parenting tips, advice, or what have you. But today I'm just really talking about some parenting tips. So the second one is model the behavior that you want your kids to learn. I think when our kids see us and we live in the same household, we have to show them what love looks like. We have to show them what respect looks like. And they will model the behavior that we do. So kids learn from what they see, also from what you say. So if you are kind, you have patience, and you show respect, the kids will model that behavior. I think it's a beautiful thing because I can remember several conversations that when, hey Tony, but I can remember several conversations where I'll have functions or get-togethers or at a friend's party, and they would come up and say, hey, your daughter is so nice, she's so kind, or what have you. And I'd be like, oh, okay. And then, I look at my wife and I say, why do sometimes we get a hard time at home? But I think the key thing is that when you show them that behavior and when you're not around and they're modeling this behavior and folks can come back and tell you how well your kids behave or how they're kind or interaction, I think that is so heartwarming as a parent, because I think, the goal is to make sure like here, home. Home is the most important. That's where you're gonna get the foundation and you lay the values for your kids. So I love the fact that when folks can come up to me and say, hey, your son or your daughter were kind, they helped me out here. That goes a mile. So thank you, Tony, for that. Yes. But for me, I have 3 kids. They're adults now. My youngest, she'll be 22, and my oldest will be 30. So I'm now learning to parent in a different space as well when you have older kids. And the second one is set clear expectations with limit and compassion. I think as far as like understanding what discipline is and setting limitations, we have to, as parents, say, okay, I think we live in this world of technology, right? It seems like kids are coming out, being born, talking about they want a cell phone or some level of technology. So I think what we have to do is make sure that, hey there, Dwight, but I think we have to make sure that we set limitations, especially where we're living a time with technology is just so readily easy for folks to get in. And then when we do set limitations or discipline, I think we have to understand the why behind it. Tell the kids why we're doing certain things, as opposed to saying, just because I said so. Like, I think when I was coming up, we grew up in the time, hey, relax. I grew up in a time where, kids would say, you're supposed to be heard, not seen, or seen, not heard, one or the other, where, you didn't have a chance, or you didn't talk back to your mom or your dad. They say, hey, they would say, I told you so, that's why you do this. And then that's, that was good enough answer for us, right? Or you would get that look from you or that stare, and you knew not to, test your mom or dad or whatever. But I think now that, we've changed and we're in this fast-paced environment, is that we have to tell kids why. Why do we think it's important for you to do something or for you not to do something? And I think, when we can provide the why, that makes them understand and say, hey, mom or dad was right. I shouldn't be doing this, or I can understand. Hey there. Yeah, some would argue that kids are, kind of soft. So I think, I can agree. I can agree with that. But I think we as parents as well, we have to modulate, and we have to transition, and we have to rethink as well. Because the goal is to always make sure that we're raising young kids who can be productive, members in society, right? I'm trying to say my kids, I want them it's almost like we want them to leave the desk. I hear you, Tony. I think the goal is to say, okay, when we have kids, we want to love them, raise them, teach them, and help them be the most successful that they can. But the goal is to say, okay, at the end of the day, you got to leave the nest. And I think when we do these things early on, when we help them with the foundation and teach them what's right from wrong, and be there to cheer them on, to champion them on, be there when they're in some of their most proudest moments, and also be there for their lowest moments. I think as parents, we have to do it all. But I think that's what we signed up for, right? It's like when when you have a kid, and when they come out of the womb and you're there in the operating room and you're holding them and you're looking there at their little faces or what have you, you have this whole life and expectations for them. So, and some folks do a great job at it, right? Some folks take it to heart and say, okay, this is what I asked for, and I'm in it for the long game. And that's what I think that's what we have to understand, that is that, that's part of it when we have kids, right? Some people want to have kids to say they have kids, but I think a lot of us say, okay, we want to have kids to extend our legacy, but also be able to have them contribute to society. So the third one was kind of set limits and expectations. The fourth one, I'm going to say praise and effort, not just results. So I think the key thing is, hey, Tony, this world would be a better place if more thought. Okay, I hear you. Thank you, Tony. If you're new to the channel, I would love it if you subscribe. But that's what this journey is about. I started this channel about 2 years ago in 2003. And my middle son, who's currently in medical school, he said, hey, Dad, I love if you would start a channel, a YouTube channel, whatever. And I think you have a lot of good advice or good energy that you can give back to people. Because I've always been one, even before I had the channel, I would always try to operate in a positive place, right? Try to be objective in my approach and not be subjective. And so I think one of the tips that I've learned away is that you have to put yourself in a place where you're being objective, especially when you're raising your kids and as they get older. You don't want to be subjective to everything they do. Thank you, sir. I appreciate that. Appreciate that, Tony. I'm glad I'm inspiring. That's what I like to do. Try to inspire people and kind of share the knowledge that I have, and hopefully it multiplies. But as far as like, I try to always be objective because I'll tell you, like, sometimes my wife, I've been married 31 years to my lovely wife. We met in college, and yeah, and this October will be 31 years of us being married. So, and then like I said, I have the three adult kids that I've been fortunate for them to help raise and also to rear them. Because I think what happens is when you have the kids are smaller, you're raising them. You're bringing them in the house, raising them, trying to give them the values, instill the values that they need to be successful in relationships, as well as preparing them for. Thank you. I really appreciate that, Tony. But I think so we want to do. So you have to move from different stages. You move from raising when they're younger, and then you move as they get older. You move to kind of rear them, and the goal is to try to walk beside them, not in front of them, not behind them, but walk beside them as they become adults to help making sure that they are able to still launch and be successful. But I think also what I like to do too is like you praise the efforts, not just the results. Because everybody's not going to make the basketball team. Like even when my kids were younger, everybody's not going to make the basketball team, the football, or the cheerleading squad. And they might not get it on the first time. Maybe they get it on the second time. But I think it's important that we praise the effort because there's a lot of work go into it, right? And when you do that, the kids understand that, hey, mom or dad, they were proud of me just because I put in the effort. I believe that you're not learning if you're not making mistakes. Correct. I would say that as well, because that's what they talk about growth grows from, right? We grow by making mistakes. We learn what not to do in the situation again. But when we make the mistake, the goal is to, like you said, is to learn from it. So you build upon it. So I think that is a key thing in mistakes, that you grow from mistakes, and mistakes aren't failures. And I talk about that in a couple of my videos as well, because a lot of people think, oh, I failed at this here, that, I can't do it again. But the one thing is important is that if you do fail at it, you get back up and you try again. I think failure only creeps in is that when you don't, when you say, okay, I'm not going to do it again. But when you get back up and say, hey, look, I'm going to take another swing at it. I'm going to give it another try. And that's all I tell my kids, too, is that don't quit. Don't quit. Just give it another try. And if you gave it your best, and that believes that, you in your heart of hearts, you believe that you gave it your best, then that's good enough for me. So it's not all about always having to make the team or getting into the school that you thought you could get into or having some career aspirations. But my goal is to say, as long as you gave it your all, and you can feel satisfied with it. But it's a beautiful thing when my kids say, hey, no, if they trying something and they fell at it, and I'm like, I think as parents, we want to see our kids winning all the time. So sometimes, we take on that additional stress, and they're not aware of it, you know what I mean? But we take on the additional stress when they're going out for something, if they're trying to go out or doing the SATs or whatever. We take on that additional stress because we want to see our kids shine at everything they do. But I think the important thing is that we have to let them know that you're not, in some cases, you'll get some things on the first try. And I think sometimes that kind of sets in a false level of security that, hey, look, I got it the first time, Okay, my phone got 6%, so I gotta bounce, but keep doing what you're doing. All right, Tony, cool. Thank you, I appreciate you. Please like or subscribe to the channel. But, and thanks for your comments and sticking around. But I think what we have to do is make sure that we encourage and we praise the effort that our kids put in. And I think it's understanding that, sometimes it's the journey or it's the goal or it's the climb that you could be happy with. And then every result doesn't have to end with a championship or a title, whatever. Because those things that you learn along the way sometimes are more valuable than any trophy or any certificate or award at the end of the day. But the goal is to never give up, because when you give up, that means that you stop trying and that you won't be able to achieve or attain that particular goal that you were looking for. The fifth thing is, I'm going to say priorities, quality time. So even short, focused moments of connection, playing games or reading with them, builds a strong bond. So when my kids were coming up, we would have game nights. I would always spend time with them, trying to make sure I stay connected with them, and then them staying connected with us when they were kids. And kids really like that stuff. They like consistent things where they know, hey, it's game night. We're going skating this night, or what have you. So they like those times where you feel connected as a family. So I think that's good, is to prioritize those bonds with your kids, so that they know that there's some level of consistency where you're going to be there with them. And then the sixth thing I think is validating their feelings. Hey, if you just got into the chat, welcome to the channel. Again, my name of the channel is Dad Talk Network. So if you're new, love it if you like or subscribe or leave a comment. But I think what we have to do is, and in today's subject I'm talking about is parenting advice for parents. And I think, so we have to validate their feelings. So instead of dismissing big emotions, saying that you really see they're upset about something. So when our kids are having situations where they're upset or having situations where they're happy, I think we as parents, we have to take time and validate their feelings, whether so this way they understand that we are concerned about their overall well-being. And the last thing you want to say is that, when you're talking to your kids, is they say, well, you never listen. You don't understand where I'm coming from. So I think what we have to do as parents is that you have to really, when your kids are going through situations, whether they're 2 years old or whether they're 32 years old, you need to take some time out and say, okay, I'm really listening to you and what the situation is and what can you do, or what can I do as a parent to offer support or offer help. And I think when you have kids that know that mom and dad's going to be there, they understand, those relationships, they just continue to grow and develop over the years. And you want to be in a space where your kids feel comfortable enough to come talk to you about anything. I always tell my kids, I say, I'd rather hear from your mouth than somebody else's mouth. And I may not always like what I'm going to hear, but I'm going to be understanding. And I'm going to try to give them the support that they need in that moment. So I think when you learn how to validate their feelings and experiences, that opens the door for them to have all kinds of conversations with you, and builds that relationship of trust and that bond that, hey, look, mom and dad has set an environment for me to express myself. And I'm in a non-judgmental role. And I talk about home. Again, home is supposed to be the most safest place there is, for us as a family, for us with kids or whatever. So I try to make sure that I lay the foundation where my kids know that no matter what, home is going to be the most safest that you're going to be. Because, there's going to be some tough conversations that happen in this home. And you realize that those tough conversations is always geared towards love. Because once you leave the door, once you leave the house, the world can be unforgiving at times. And they're not going to give you all the niceties or whatever. But you have to realize that you have to have a situation where your kids understand that you validate their feelings and that they're being heard. And I think that goes a long way to help develop the relationship. And the seventh thing I want to talk about is encouraging independency. Give your kids age appropriate responsibilities like chores. This helps boost their confidence and skills. Because at the end of the day, right, we want to make sure that we are encouraging independency so our kids, right, when they go out into the world. So say, for instance, if you're trying to, I think a big thing too, right, thank you, appreciate that. So I think that one of the things is that, right, as far as like encourage your independency for your kids, right, if you're trying to teach them, like whether it is teach them how to do the dishes, teach them how to take out the trash, teach them how to clean up behind themselves. Those small things when kids are small, you're teaching them ownership and responsibility for their behaviors and their actions. So I think we as parents have to always encourage their independency that is age appropriate, right? So, what's independent for a 5-year-old to do? What's independent for a 10-year-old or a 15-year-old? Because what you want to do is be able to give kids life skills, right? Whether you're showing them how to clean up behind themselves, how to do the dishes or whatever, how to cut the grass. So our job as parents is to give our kids life skills that they can take as they get into adolescent and young adulthood. So always encouraging our kids to be independent in all aspects of their life. And then I think too here's one that's kind of good. Use natural consequences, right? So I think and basically it means like when it's safe, let your kids experience natural outcomes of their action. It teaches them accountability versus lecturing. So again, I think we've all, from my perspective with my kids is that I always say that, mom and dad here, we're a safety net and we're here to catch you or to help you when you fall. But I think what we try to do is talk them through the natural consequences. So say, for instance, we talk about when the kids were coming up, we talk about no drinking and driving, right? Because they can have real life consequences. It can affect your life. You can use your license. You can affect somebody else's life. So we always talk about the importance of not drinking and driving as one instance, because we all know that there are lasting impacts on people when they drink and drive, and that could be a serious situation. And they will also talk about, making sure that you hang out with the right people who are doing right things, who are doing positive things, because you never want to be lumped into a crowd of kids who are not doing the right thing and who are not doing positive things. Because what they always say, they say birds of a feather flock together. And you don't want people to start to prejudge you based upon the company that you keep. So those are like two life natural consequences that you could tell your kids about. If you do these certain things, you could potentially find yourself in this situation. And I think that helps them understand that they have to be accountable for their actions, because no one's going to step up in a situation where something goes bad and say, oh no, that wasn't you, that was me, or whatever. So always make sure that you let them know that there are consequences to their actions as they get older. And you do this at age appropriate times. The next one is about take care of yourself. I think it's important for our kids to know that they have to take care of themselves, as far as take care of your personal hygiene, take care of your mental health, take care of your physical health, and take care of your, I would say, intellectual health. So always prioritize what you're doing. Whether you're going to school, make sure that you take time out to make sure that you're prioritizing. Like I know sometimes you want to hang out, my kids want to hang out with their friends, but I would say, okay, you need to make sure that your schoolwork is done. And then after your schoolwork is done, then you can go hang out with your kids. I mean, not your kids, but your friends. So it's about teaching them how to make sure that they prioritize the things that are important to themselves. Because no one's going to do that for them. So that's something that they have to learn, and that will carry over into all areas of life. When you prioritize what's important to you, and then you can worry about what someone else is doing or what have you. So, let me see if I got any more parenting tips. Should have got some water. I'm gonna try to sit here and talk for an hour. I think a good thing is that we need to teach our kids is to stay calm during conflict, right? And then I also have a video where I talk about this as well, is that you don't always have to try to win every argument. Some arguments aren't even worth the time and energy that's necessary to engage in such a, it's okay to disagree, but sometimes you don't need to put that energy into every argument or every conflict, because you have to be able to control your emotions. So I think that's important, is like staying calm during conflict situations as best you can. Another one is, I say is important advice to parenting, is that listen more than you talk. I think sometimes kids just need to feel they are heard. Let them express themselves fully before offering advice or correction. So again, if your kids come to you with something, try to listen more than you talk. I think that's in key. And you'll learn a lot from that situation when you allow your kids to speak. And I have another video on Dad Talk Network referring to that as well, about really listening to our kids so we understand what they're doing or what they're going through. So we have 2 ears and 1 mouth. I think everybody's heard that somewhere along the line, is that, so if you have 2 ears and 1 mouth, you should be doing twice the amount of time of listening than you're doing talking. I just see 2 folks just joined the room. Welcome to the channel. Again, my channel is called Dad Talk Network. If you're new to the channel, I would love if you like, subscribe, or leave a comment. Again, hey there, MacDonald. Hey, so channel is about positive, talking from a dad perspective. And then today's conversation was about just different parenting tips that I've wanted to share with folks as I'm a father of three kids, 3 adult kids now. And I think I think what was good too was creating routines. I think that was a good thing. When my kids were young, we had routines. There was dinner was always between 5 and 6. They could watch movies up until 8, 9 o'clock, or play video games, what have you, and then they had to go to bed or whatever, and then get up for the next day. I think too is that when my kids were coming up, I was a manager, a people manager, and I'm quite sure folks, we have this thing called one-on-ones with your manager or whatever. So I actually, when my kids were small, I would give them one-on-one time. Yeah, 3 adult kids. My oldest son will be 30 this year. Middle son be 27, and my daughter, she's 20. She'll be turning 22. So yeah, 3 adult kids. I love them to pieces. And I've been in their lives from the day they left the womb till today. So, but I think it's having good relationships, and I love that I have good relationship with my kids. I don't know if you have any kids, McDonald, but that's one of the most cherishing relationships, is like when you can have good relationships with your kids, and when you can be in their lives and watch them till they grow up, and be there as a support system. I think that's a great thing. But I guess the good thing is about my kids didn't give me any, don't give me too many grays. And then I have those good relationships with them. So I think that help me stay at least young at heart with my kids. So yeah, so when I talk about creating these routines, I think that's important When you're able to create routines, it gives consistency for the kids. Um, and I think another good parenting tip is teaching our kids problem solving skills. Instead of fixing every problem, ask questions like, what do you think? What could you try? What you could do differently? So yeah, having the ability to teach your kids to solve problems at an early age, that's going to help you. Instead of trying to always fix them. I see someone just came in the room. Again, channel's called Dad Talk Network. Um, okay, someone just left the room. But I think what we have to do is really, teach our kids problem solving skills, because I think you want to be able to. They always talk about this, and I think you might have heard this, where they say, well, give a man a fish for a day, he'll only eat that day. But give a man a fishing pole, he can eat the rest of his days. So I think that's when I say about teaching them problem solving skills, I refer to that because we can't be there 100% of the time for every situation that our kids get into. So our goal is to teach them those problem solving skills so that they can, work on their own and figure out some things, and then be there to offer them guidance or advice. Welcome to the channel. If you're new to the channel, it's called Dad Talk Network. Love if you like, subscribe, leave a comment. I think this is a good thing too as well. If you are a parent, you got multiple kids, I think it's avoid comparing your kids to one another. So I think here, each child develops on their own pace. So you celebrate their unique strengths and support areas of growth without judgment. So yeah, I have like 3 kids, and I think what I talk about, each of them have different needs. And the last thing you want to do is, compare one kid to the next. What you want to do is help support the areas of opportunity or weakness that they have, and then help hone in on those strengths that they have. So if someone excels at sports, if you have one of the kids that excel at sports, help champion them. If you are physical enough, help develop that skill with them. Play basketball, teach them some of the drills or the fundamentals. But if you have one kid that is intellectually there, engage with him as well, him or her as well. If they have a love for reading or whatever, taking them to the library, showing them some of the new technology, as far as like helping them to develop their mind and seeing what sparks their interest. Maybe they like plants, or maybe they like different animals or whatever. So finding out what makes them tick. And then I think I think that is key, is that never compare your kids from one to the other, because you want to make sure that you're building and developing each of their talents, and they may be different at times. And sometimes you do have two kids that are athletic, so they're going down the same path. You could do that, but understand that each kid is going to need something uniquely different from you as a parent. And then, like where one might need more guidance, where the other one shows more independency or whatever. And you'll see that as they go up, what they need. So you want to make sure that you're being what your kids need and not trying to be everything. But figuring out how to support them, what are their weaknesses, what are their strengths, and then help develop their strengths. And then as far as like, how do we turn these weaknesses into something that they could start to build and have confidence about. So I've never, compared one of my kids with the other. I think they're all uniquely different, and that they require different things from us at different times. Here's another important thing as parents we need to make sure, is that we apologize when we're wrong. So I talk about this in another video that I did, but saying I'm sorry shows that making mistakes is part of being human and teaches accountability and humility. So when you're wrong about a situation, own up to it. Because the last thing you want folks or your kids to say, hey, mom and dad is always right. Or I can't go talk to them because I know, what they're gonna say. So what we have to do is make sure that we apologize when we've done something wrong, or if we said something that may have hurt their feelings. Um, and we as parents have to take accountability for our actions. Again, the goal is always to make sure that home is a safe place for our kids, where they know that there is always unconditional love in the home. And next one is stay involved in their world. So I think know their friends, their interests and hobbies. This opens doors to communicate and show genuine interest in their lives. So I think it's important is that we do stay involved in our kids' world, so we know who they're hanging out with, who are they influencing, and who are they being influenced by. So I think it's key for us to stay involved and connected to the world, so that we know what they're doing, and we know how they're looking at different things. And then I think the last thing is I'm going to say is a parenting tip is use encouragement over criticism. Instead of saying you don't do that, try this way. So trying to positively frame the what you're trying to get them to improve on. So I think, again, using encouragement over criticism will help them develop the necessary skills to try to do things on their own and to try to do things differently when they come up short in certain situations. So again, for those who tuned in today, I appreciate the comments. Please stay tuned for more content coming from Dad Talk Network. Again, if you come across the channel, I would love it if you like, subscribe, or leave a comment. I believe this is like my third time going live. So I think I'm gonna probably try to do live a little bit more. Thank you, take care, and enjoy the rest of your day.